So you want to put your piece very carefully under the machine, and you can see I've got a piece of stabilizer underneath, which is very slightly bigger. You don't need it. You can actually have it slightly smaller if you want, but certainly needs to cover all the area that you're likely to sew. I threaded up with DS891, which is a soft taupe. So I'm all set up into free motion. So you want to keep a pair of scissors, small scissors, handy with you. And we're going to need to be very careful that we're not going to knock anything off. So if you have got a setting on your machine where you can leave it stop so it automatically puts the needle down, then that's a good plan. Right, I just need to get my seat sorted a little bit. I keep doing these videos and then finding that like you've got the best view and I can't see, and then I get a neck ache. So needs to be a compromise between us both being able to see. So I think that's really okay. If I get too close, what happens is it starts to like focus on my hands and not onto the fabric. But what we're going to do is sew with this taupe about, well, really as close as you can. So, you know, a millimetre, but or less if you can, from the edge. And we're going to go around all the pieces. So I think you can see that okay. So on free motion, obviously, you can go in whatever direction you want. You're controlling it. If you don't move, then it doesn't move. We want to sew nice and smoothly. Which means that you need to move it smoothly. So when we're doing this, and I've got to be really accurate, I am not sewing fast. And by slowing down, I'm really going to reduce the chances of me getting wobbles in. The wobbles are where you're sewing kind of too fast and not going anywhere really. And that means that you can kind of have a stitch here, a stitch there, a stitch there, and it looks all wobbly. You want to sew slow enough that you can move in a smooth line. So, and it's also easier to sew, well, you can sew whichever direction you want. It's easier to sew either toward you or sideways, because then you can see what you're doing. Okay, so I'm just going to go around doing this around the whole thing. I'm not going to make you suffer into seeing that happen really, really slowly. So I'll whiz through and you can see how I go on everything, and then I'll slow down when we get to the more interesting bits. And that way I can put music on, or sometimes I put a film in the background. Okay, so that is all the more tedious bit of it done. Can't say it's my favourite job. I much prefer adding the colour than doing the outlining. So I tried when I was doing the different pieces to give some help for the placement. So first we're going to do the beak, and it's obviously in the centre of this little dip up. So I'm going to outline twice for the beak. So before, you can see that I kind of went through and did a second row of stitching. And sometimes I did it kind of immediately, and other times I went all the way around and came back. It's just kind of whatever feels like the most sensible thing to do at the time. So then we're going to add the eyes in, and again the placement is kind of just inside where this loop is. So we're just going to stitch a quick circle. And the same for the eye over here, just move that out of the way. And try and get them about the same size if you can. Okay, and then the beak for the second one, he's got his eyes closed, so we don't need to worry about that. So just the beak in. And that goes kind of all the way down to the collar that we've got there. And then I think I added a couple of stems in as I went, just because, you know, I had to get over to there, so it seemed to make sense to add in the stem whilst I was over there. Other ones we're going to add in now. So I'm just going to, on some of this, the pieces are slightly differently laid out than on the pattern. So, and it's just kind of what looked best when it was all together, and there's probably a certain level of things having shifted a little bit. So, but don't worry about that. So just kind of, so if you're going to be doing these branches along here, let's cut these all off now, because otherwise we're going to be having to remove them from underneath things. We're leaving the threads at the back, and that helps stop with any fraying, but we quite well secure these threads really, because by sewing over them twice we have gone over the start of them and end. So okay, so now we can get this branch in, which comes up along there. So when you sew in branches, try not to make them too smooth, so put some kind of jerky bits in. So we've got to get up to this bit up here, because branches do very much grow. Something gets in the way and they kind of go off on a bit of a tangent. And it does somehow seem to make them look quite unnatural when you make them too smooth. So we're just going to go, I'm roughly following the embroidery guidelines, but I'm not worrying about it too much. Okay, and I'm just going to do one outline for that because I don't want them to be too heavy. Okay, so other bits we need to add in. We've done the owls, they look good. Oh, there's a little branch down here. Add that one in. Yes, it's like the one time you want to be really wibbly. Okay, and then along for these two. The branch kind of crosses over itself a little bit here, how I've drawn it. That's why you keep your little scissors handy. So we're going to go over to where this branch is, and then down. Now I've definitely laid these out slightly differently than I had on this one, so I'm just going to kind of wing it a little bit. But these are branches, so you know it's all good. nice. Right, this kind of sweepy thing we're doing green, so we just need to get this branch in. I've already added the one for this magnolia down here. There, over for around the owl. Yeah, I think I do normally keep a little bit closer to the templates than I have here. Never mind. Yours will look better, I'm sure. Okay, I already added this one on here, and I added the tulip stem, and everything else is just embroidery, isn't it? So we have finished the outlining. So we want to go through and just remove any of these threads on the front, and now would be a good time to give it a press and to take a break if you have. Let me just move this camera back a little bit while that's it. Otherwise I'm trying to cut threads like right under the machine. Yeah, so, you know, take a break, get up, walk around, stretch yourselves, whatever you need to do, because you've been kind of hunched over. I've not been hunched over because the camera's in the way, so I have to sit up like I'm like a meerkat over the top of this camera. So it's that, or I'm like kind of, you know, twisted and peering around the outside. So I've been trying that didn't work well. I ended up with quite a sore neck doing that for a few days. So it's meerkat instead. Okay, so I think that's it all. Okay, so give it a press and take a break.